Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Tableau Developers Virtual User Group. I'm glad you all are able to join us. My name is Anthony Chimbaris, and I will be facilitating this meeting today. I'm from Winnow Analytics, and I also run the Boston Tableau Users Group. And what I'm going to do is introduce the speakers and go through the agenda today, and then I'll hand off to the first speaker. But before I do that, I just want to point out that this event is about you, the developer community. We are interested in hearing how you're using the developer APIs. If you're interested in presenting at a future meeting like this, this doesn't have to be just about the extension API. If you're doing something interesting with the JavaScript API or the REST API, we're very much as interested in presentations on that topic. If you have ideas or just want to see how to do something and want somebody else to talk about it, definitely let us know. We plan on doing these meetings about once a quarter as well. So our first speaker today is Andre de Vries. He's from the Information Lab. And he's going to be talking about how to design effective UIs, specifically around extensions. Next will be Merlin Butte. He is from InfoTopics, and he'll be also talking about extensions and some extensions he built in Tableau. And then our final speakers will be Keisha Rose and Gigi Zanoli from Tableau. They run the Tableau development community, and they'll be giving some updates on that. So without further ado, Andre, why don't you take over and get started?
Yes, thank you, Anthony. Let me share my screen. Okay, cool. Before I'm going to start, I want to mention if you have any questions, I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, and at the end we'll have about 5 minutes for questions. Could you please put all the questions you have in the Q&A section rather than in the chat, because it's easier for us to monitor the questions that are in the Q&A. Okay. Without further ado, let's get started. So as an extension developer, and I think we have a few of those on the call, you have lots of options in terms of designing your extension. However, users of your Tableau extension are kind of everyday Tableau users, and they should see an extension that is not only recognizable, but should also have the Tableau look and feel. In this really small talk of about 10 minutes, I will go over some of the design resources you can use in order to style your extension. So if you're starting with developing extensions, then this is a talk to be. So my name is Andre, and in the sign-up page, it said I was working for as a VP of product experience at some design company. That is not the case, actually. I work for the Information Lab in the UK. I'm based out of London, and I help our customers be successful with both Tableau and Alteryx. Originally, I'm from the Netherlands. Merlin, who's speaking after me, is also from the Netherlands, so you get the full Dutch experience here. If you want any of these slides, there won't be many slides, but you could go to this bit.ly link. Some of the slides will have some resources on it. So if you want those resources, then definitely make a note of this bit.ly link. Otherwise, you can always contact me on social media or go to my website and you will find some more information. Cool. So if we jump in and talk about Tableau extensions. So Tableau extensions are basically two-way communication between a web application and your dashboard. The whole aim of a Tableau extension is to extend Tableau's functionality. However, with that extending of the functionality, we need to take the following into account. We need to create something that is recognizable for every Tableau user. So they need to be able, when they open up the extension, be already familiar with how it should work. And if I look at the following slide here, this is a Tableau extension window. I took a screenshot. I built this one even before the Tableau extensions were publicly released. I participated in the beta. And I created an extension that allowed you to basically write back data to a Microsoft SQL Server database. Some of our customers were interested in that. So I built an extension that does this. However, what you can see here is that this doesn't fully look like a Tableau interface, right? I tried to use the Tableau colors as much as possible, try to style it in such a way that it looks a little bit like Tableau. But it's not fully how Tableau looks, right? So what Tableau did just before TC 18 in New Orleans was after a little bit of complaining from the developers, was like, guys, you should actually make what they call a component library. And Tableau answered our questions, and they released basically two things. And they gave those two things to us, which is the first one is called a Tableau UI, which I will show you in a bit. And we also have the UX design guidelines. Okay, so the UI stands for the user interface, while the design of the UX stands for the user experience. Especially the UX design guidelines. I'm not going to go too deep into those, but I would definitely recommend, if you have some time, and I would actually suggest as a preliminary reading before you start building extensions, to read a little bit more about those design guidelines. But let's first look at the Tableau UI. And the Tableau UI is basically a library, and it's what they call it's a React component library. Okay, for those that are new to kind of building web applications, React is what they call a front-end framework, and it's been built by Facebook, and it's one of the most popular front-end frameworks. So if you start building Tableau extensions, you would want to learn a little bit more about React. What you can do with this UI library is you can have, for example, default buttons. You can have, buttons. They can be default. You can create your own pills. So whenever you build an extension, you can have these pills in there. So they can be the normal dimensions and measures you have. So you have immediately, when you use this component library, you have immediately the correct colors, the correct fonts, all that kind of styling. You also get this one, where everyone's probably familiar with. They use Tableau Server. This is like the little spinner that you see when you open up a new workbook. This can be used if you, for example, want to display some data to the user, but the data hasn't been loaded fully yet. So you can show that spinner and make it disappear when the data is actually there. Let me just quickly show you how to use this component library. So for that, I'm going to use a platform called Code Sandbox. It's just easy for me to show because it's in the browser, and it's a way to show you. And I'm just going to create really quickly what they call a React app. Sorry, I just clicked on the wrong button. I'm just going to create a React Sandbox. And I already have it in here. We can see that the Tableau UI is already installed here. You can also see it in here in the dependencies. And what then allows you to do is, if I go back to one of these, is import it. So you can see here on the top, I'm importing a button and I'm importing a spinner. And you can see on the right-hand side, they show up. Of course, you would want to, if you display this in Tableau, you would use, like you would not do this in a browser, but in your own code editor. And you can change these colors if you want. So you can change this from filled green. So you could make this like a black text, for example. If you do that, you get only the text for the button. So it's what they call the component library. You have a few things to work. You can find the component library here if you go to the tableau.github.io, and it's down here, Tableau UI. If you click on it, you can see there's the reference, and I basically use this button. You can see all of the buttons that are in there. You have things like checkboxes, drop downs. We see the different pills. So you can see we have discrete pills, continuous, all of those you can use. So Tableau built this for you, and it's fairly easy to incorporate once you use React. That brings me actually to the following point. Not everyone is using React. So some people that build extensions just use normal JavaScript. So they don't use a front-end framework. And for that, we also at the Information Lab, we tend to not use React. We actually started learning React lately. We just use what a colleague of mine created, Craig Bloodworth. He created the Tableau extension starter. The link is down here. And that is for people that don't use React. It's also kind of, it's not the same UI library as Tableau uses, but Craig basically built something. And if I show Tableau, so this is, Craig built an extension that allows you to show images. It's called the image viewer. So if I click on an image, this is a football player in England, and it shows an extension. So sorry, an image coming out of the extension. So if I go to configure here, you can see this still very much looks like Tableau, right? You have a configure on the top. This looks like the edit axis, for example. And you can configure this one here. And this also looks fairly similar to what Tableau normally gives to you. But this is not built in React. This is just using the normal or just vanilla JavaScript, what they call it. Okay, so that's one way. So if I go back to the slides here, it's using the Tableau extension starter. You can find it also on GitHub. A little bit about the UX, because I'm almost on my 10 minutes. But about the UX, when you build extensions, you basically have two places where you need to design an extension, which is, if I hop back into Tableau, is this configuration window, which if you use a drop-down and go to configure, this is something you need to style, but also this image of this football player. That is also what is called the container of the extension. So jump back into this one. You basically get two types of users. The desktop user, like in this case that I'm using Tableau Desktop. I can configure my extension. I have the ability to change the extension and give some kind of user experience to it. And then we also have the server or the online user that is basically consuming our dashboards. And that is also a consumer of our extension. And that particular user typically doesn't have access to this configuration pane, because if I go to, say, full screen, this would show us, as you can see, I don't have the ability to modify this container. So I can only click on players here and the images will show up. Okay. This image viewer is a great way to go around the problem of using shapes for images, because if new images are being added, we probably all know the problem that the shapes don't show up. This extension went around it and actually helps you demonstrate that. Okay, so if I now jump back in my presentation, have a little bit about some of the other things. If you want to use color, Tableau released their official colors as well. It's on this link as well. You can go to it and you can use the official hex codes of Tableau, so it looks even more like Tableau. The fonts Tableau uses, the font we got back in Tableau 10, I think, it's called Bentonson. Unfortunately, I think you have to pay for this font, but I found that Helvetica is actually fairly close to the normal Tableau font. Okay, so those are two little quick tips. Definitely look at color, look at fonts. They can immediately improve your extension. Having said that, thank you for listening. If anyone has any questions, then I'm happy to answer those.
So Merlin, I'm sorry, Andre, there were a couple of questions.
Okay.
So I'll start with the third easiest one, which is, will this recording be available? Yes, we're recording this. Next question, does the Tableau extension require a separate license? I think I can answer that, or Key should jump in if you want. The answer is no, as far as I know. Key, should you agree with that statement?
That is correct.
Okay. I'll get to a meatier question now. So is the extension starter kit more easily compatible for hosting up to GitHub than React.js? This person hasn't used React.js yet. They're using minimum JS. So do you understand the question, Andre?
Yeah, I understand the question, yes. So the starter pack, yeah. Well, it's just what you do with React is you need to build, you need to do React build, and then you can build your your app, basically. So if you look at React, you would want to build it rather than using the React dev, and then you can host this on GitHub pages if you want to. If you want, you can also send me a message, and we can have a chat as well about the options you have. It's yeah, about GitHub pages. I found that as well in the beginning when I was using React. It was a bit tricky to host it, but it's not too difficult. Yes, any more questions?
So there's another question. So it isn't necessarily related to UI, but I'm sure something you've run into in the past. What are some of the security considerations when building an extension accessing sensitive data, if any?
Yes, yeah, we always get a question. Maybe Merlin is going to touch on that later as well, and Keisha can jump in. So about the security aspects of extensions. Yeah, Keisha, are you around?
Yeah, for sure. This sounds like it was for building, but I'll answer for using as well. Before you use any extensions, you should definitely make sure to vet that security. We've got a page, if you just do a quick search for managing extensions on server, you can learn how to safe list and block list extensions and control how your users use them. Oh, perfect. Yes, thank you. Andre's pulling it up right now. This is a great page to go to. It just talks about things you should know before running extensions, and it goes through how you can actually test extensions for security. So I would refer to this page just in general for your security questions.
All right, thank you. So Andre, another question for you. This viewer is not familiar with React, so I know you gave a brief overview. Can you just give a little more detail on what React is and how it plays into the Tableau extension API?
Yeah, sure. So React is, let me open up the page as well. React's been around since around, I think, 2013. I don't want to jump in all the history, but React was built by the Facebook team. And with normal JavaScript, it's actually quite difficult to build user interfaces. And React makes that a lot easier. It's using a thing called JSX, which stands for, it's basically HTML in JavaScript. And it's at the moment it's one of the most popular front-end frameworks, and they make it a lot easier to build out what they call interfaces. If you look at the Tableau UI components here, you can see that this is in here. We also have code, so this is creating a default button. If I click on View Code. If you import this library, you only have to do button, and then you can give it some text, and then you close it off, and that will create this button for you. Maybe Keisha can touch upon why they used React instead of, there are some other front-end frameworks that they can for it, maybe?
Yeah, so we use React internally for our hybrid dialogues that you actually see in the product, like the desktop product. If you've been using Tableau Desktop for a while, you might have noticed things like the sorting dialog or the table calculations dialog has changed to this kind of newer style. And what we are able to do with that is we reuse those components both in desktop and in the web. So we've already been building those tools. We didn't want to have to redo that work. So now if we add a new button or a new dropdown in the product, we can easily port that over to Tableau UI. However, I do want to mention that you don't have to be using React for your whole project to use these components. You can just do two script import lines on your plain JavaScript or HTML and still leverage the components, which is a little bit different. Yes, perfect. This is exactly how you do it right there on that front page. So, but that's why we did React.
Yes, one thing to add to that is, I don't know the exact number, but there are quite a lot of extensions in the extension gallery that don't use React. So don't be afraid if this all looks very, well, it looks difficult. I only started using React about a few months ago. Before that, I was using a different front-end framework, but also just normal HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. that shouldn't hold you off from creating extensions.
Okay, Andre, there's another question about React, and it's more infrastructure based. So do you need a separate server to use React, or a separate app running on a separate server to use React, or is it something that can run within your web application?
No, so React is all client side. So client side means that it runs in your browser. So React will compile. If you build it, it will just compile down to normal HTML and JavaScript. So it will be exactly the same like a normal web application. You don't need a separate server for that.
Okay. All right. And let's see if we can get one more question in here. This might be more for Keisha. And Keisha, I'm sorry for stealing your thunder for your presentation later.
Not at all.
This one has to do with certification program for extension. So is there or are there any plans for a certification program for extension development so that for prod development effectively to qualify someone as building an extension for production development?
Currently, we're not quite sure. I'm not sure if you're asking if you're looking for a certification for the developer or for the extension, but I'll answer both. For the developer, that's something we're thinking about maybe down the road. We're not quite there yet for like certified, extension developer. However, we do have some plans on some possible proposals on hosted extensions that are hosted by us, in which case they'd be validated by us, and you could say, okay, that extension is secure and been validated. But as of right now, we're still in the planning phases.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. So I think that's all the time we'll have for questions for Andre. Andre, thank you for your presentation. It was great. And now let's go over to Merlin and get him going on his.
All right, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Great. Okay, I'll switch back. All right, welcome all to the meetup. My name is Merlin, and I will talk about the why of extensions. To give a little bit of a background, I'm Merlin, I'm 28 years old, and I'm also from the Netherlands, and I'm a Tableau Zen Master, and I work with Tableau for around 4.5 years now, and according to some data of the internet, I only have 45 years to live, 54 years to live, and as you can see in the top left graph, I'm 28 years old.
Merlin, really quick, can you flip your screen? It's showing presentation mode right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, well.
No worries.
This is better?
There we go, perfect.
All right, great. So I'm the co-founder of Apps for Tableau, where we build extensions, like extensions you've may seen in the extension gallery, like Show Me More, Picture This, Super Tables, and more. I do this together with my colleague Chaling and Siba. And why? So this talk I'm having is about the why. So why am I building these extensions? Well, the first and main reason, of course, is to build games in Tableau. This is something you can do with extensions, and it shows the possibilities of extensions. And it's really cool. So that's the first reason. The second reason is to be called on stage by Keisha, of course. So this was also one of our big milestones. Keisha showing Show Me More here. One of our extensions on the big stage at the Tableau conference. So, and the other one is to win prizes at the Tableau Hackathon. At the Tableau conference, together with my colleague Chaling, we made Pac-Man in Tableau. And we won the Pirate Award with it. So it was really fun. So to go back to why I'm working with extensions and why I'm developing them. If I compare Tableau to something, I would call it a toolbox to create dashboards with. And it's just a toolbox. It has several kinds of tools to build a dashboard, to build sheets, to build visualizations, etc. But it's still a small toolbox, and for a lot of people that's enough, and it's great. But when I started at Info Topics, I was a consultant. I'm still a consultant actually, but I got a lot of questions from customers which wanted more functionality in Tableau, like a global filter for all the dashboards, or a interactivity between a portal and a dashboard, or between an application and a dashboard, and integrations, etc. So that's when I learned the JavaScript API, and my toolbox became a little bit bigger. So I got more tools and more possibilities with Tableau, and that's great. Because it will enrich your Tableau experience, and there's a whole new world of possibilities you get at your hands. So that's why I learned the JavaScript API, and Tableau is building new APIs and new APIs. So the REST API was something new, the document API was coming, and then in 2 years ago almost, they announced a new API called the Extensions API. And this was the part where I got really enthusiastic about, because this was opening up a whole lot of new possibilities inside a dashboard. So no custom portals anymore, it's right in the dashboard. And that gave me this big toolbox with all these little drawers, like the drawer with extensions, with the REST API, and I could integrate it, and I could combine it, and it would be great. So right now we are at this big toolbox, and I think Tableau is adding more and more APIs, and this toolbox is getting bigger. Maybe it becomes even a truck, maybe, with tools inside. So I'm really excited about that. And to give you some more feedback, so things you can do with this Extensions API is something which is normally not possible. So for example, I've built this little test extension where you have a little bit of text on the left, and when you scroll down in the text, the visualization in the dashboard updates according to the text. So there is an integration between a text, and the extension knows where you are in the text, and it will update your visualization. And things like that are suddenly possible in Tableau. And something like the JavaScript API. So let me talk a little bit about what tools I use, and also which things are you should be. Well, I will get back to that later. So what tools do I use? To get started with the programming tool, I do a lot of programming in Visual Studio Code, because it's a great programming editor, because it has an integration with Git. It has a lot of extensions, so you can modify the tool. And to give you a little bit of examples of the extensions I'm using in Visual Studio Code, are ESLint. This one is a JavaScript code checker, and it checks your code and it highlights. It's actually syntax highlighting. So if you make a little mistake, it helps you to find the mistake, and it gives you a little bit advice on how to solve it. And the other one is Prettier, and this one is also for JavaScript. And Prettier is actually reformatting your code. So if you hit save or you hit update, for example, it will look at your code and it will format it in a nice, beautiful way. So all your code is looking the same. So I highly recommend that one. I'm also using Material Theme, of course, to make it dark. That's what we all want, to make it more beautiful. And if you're working with a framework like Vue, you can use Feather. It's a framework extension, which helps to give you all kinds of snippets, etc. If you look at code versioning, I recommend to use something like Git or GitHub if you want to go open source. But if you have a company, we use Bitbucket at our company, because it integrates nicely with our other products, and it's great to work together on code. And if you want to work together on code, you need something like Git or like Bitbucket, for example. So you can merge code together, you can do pull requests, you can push code, you can work in different branches and merge them together later. And it's a great way of working together on code. To talk about the languages we use, if you want to start on extensions, you need some knowledge of JavaScript. That's actually the basics. You need, of course, something like HTML knowledge, the basics. If you want to go further, you want to do more advanced stuff, like working with the Tableau UI or build incredible extensions with all kinds of interactivity, I recommend using React.js. Andre also talked about it already, and we also are working with React.js right now. We started working with Vue.js, and we are merging to React right now because of the Tableau UI package. And for the backend, we are using a lot of Node and PHP to do all kinds of server rendering. And there are some power tools we're using. One is Yarn and the other one is Webpack. We are using those tools to compile the extension at the end and to serve it and to do all kinds of packaging stuff. So take a look at that one also. And if you're looking into Yarn and Webpack, take a look at the following dependencies, because if you're using extensions, you will write in JavaScript, you will write some custom codes, and not all the code is compatible with all browsers. And Babel is helping you to. It's from the Bible. It's a metaphor. Babel is a code compiler, and it will make the code compatible with all the browsers. So if you're writing a function which is not compatible with Internet Explorer, for example, Babel will do a workaround and it will make it compatible with Internet Explorer. And we are also using Polyfill because that's also a tool to do async stuff, etc., to make it more compatible with Internet Explorer, actually. So those two dependencies are highly recommended if you want to build extensions. And also recommended by Andre, if you want to get started with extensions, please go to this link. This is your place to go, the Tableau GitHub.io extensions API, because here you can find all things how to get started with extensions. You can find examples, you can find the reference API documents. You can also find the Tableau UI and the UX design guidelines. It's all here on this link. So please go there if you want to start with extensions. And if you want to start with extensions, I have some tips to get started. I also started at one day when the extensions API went in alpha or in beta mode. And the first thing I learned was to not start with a framework. So if you're like thinking, okay, I should do something with React or Vue, or I don't know what it is, just start pure vanilla JS and try to build something you like. And if it's really good and if you like it, then you can think about converting it to a framework and to make it more beautiful with Tableau UI, etc. And if you are really a starter with programming, it's always good to open up a extension example, which are on the Tableau GitHub library. And you can modify it, for example, just change the button, change a little bit of JavaScript code, what the button is doing, or just hack a little bit until it's working like you want to do. And then you can make it more customized to your experience. The third one is to have the extensions API docs open all the time, because you will need to do a lot of digging to find functions, to find methods, etc., on how the extensions API is working and what you can do with it. And if you're done with your extension, well, you can take a look at the Tableau UI to make it more beautiful, to make it more aligned with Tableau. So those are like a little bit of starter tips on how to start with extensions. There are also things which are breaking my head, of course, and I hope I can click these links. Just give me feedback if you want, if you can see it. But for example, if we go to this docs and we go to the categorical filter, you can do some things with the filter. So for example, are you seeing this?
It's still showing your PowerPoint.
Okay, let me share my screen.
There we go.
All right. So if we go to the globals and we go to the categorical filter here, we see the function categorical filter, and we have some properties like the applied values, the field name. But we also have two methods. One is called get domain, and the other one is get fields. But if I'm looking at a categorical filter, I would also expect something like a change the filter or update the filter. But it's not inside the methods of the filter here. It's somewhere else. So one important thing to note is that these docs are great, but they're not perfect yet. So you should do something like change value. No, it's not change. Maybe it's something like apply or something. Yeah, it's apply. So to change the filter, you need to go to the worksheet instead of going to the filter. And here it is. Okay, let me get back to this one. And one of the other things is you have to read these documents really carefully. Because if you look at the bottom two examples and you look on the bottom left and the bottom right, the bottom left is not working, but the bottom right is working. And that's because if you want to change a filter with the extensions API, like for example, the filter region, and you want to filter on region north, for example, you have to use an array. And that's something required by this function. But if you're not doing it correctly, your extension will crash and you have no clue what's happening. So those are things I was like, oh, how is this possible? I have no clue how this is working. So one of my tips is go to these docs and read it very carefully. So for example, if we go to this method, apply filters async, it's saying I need a field name, which is a string. And the second input is a value, which is an array. And this array is containing a string. So I need an array actually. And the last one is an update type, which is a filter update type. You can click it, and you can see all the possible update types. So take a look at that because it's really important. Otherwise, your extension will crash. And if your extension is crashing, there is something you can use to find the bugs and to find why it is crashing. And these sheets will be, this PowerPoint will be recorded. I will also share it with you if you like. So open up an editor and paste this line in the editor. And what you will do is you will open Tableau in a debug modus. And it makes it possible that if you're using Tableau in the debug modus, you can go to this localhost URL with the port number you have defined in this line, 8696. And you will find your extension there. You can click it and it will use, and it's actually a browser, so you can find the console errors. You can find something what is crashing your extension, and it makes your life a lot better as an extension developer. So if you're using extensions and you're developing it, always open Tableau in debug modus. Okay, so I think, yeah, that's my call. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the Q&A. And congratulations, you finished.
Thank you, Merlin, for sharing this. I remember from the You Did What session at the last Tableau conference, I remember seeing this Mario presentation. It was great. I think it got the largest round of applause. It was pretty remarkable.
Thanks.
So I think we have time for one question. This one has to do with performance impact with extensions. So the fact that you're dealing with client-side code and interacting with the dashboard, which is living on a server. Do you have any, first of all, do you see performance impact? Do you have any tips for dealing with performance issues between the Tableau server, the extension, and the client-side app?
Well, as an extension is always a client-side rendered application. As long as it is fast in your browser, you can also open it in the browser. It will be fast in your dashboard. But because you're using all kinds of methods to talk with Tableau, for example, give me the summary data of a specific sheet, those functions can become really slow if you want to have a lot of data from a summary, from a sheet. And then you have to wait for a few seconds to get the data, and your extension can freeze for a little bit. So keep in mind that if you're using the API, you're bound to the speed of the API. So if you're asking Tableau to give you 100,000 records of summary data, Tableau won't like it. But it's obvious, but yeah. I think that's the only part where we have some performance issues right now.
Okay, all right. So I lied that I said there was time for one question. I think you can answer this one quickly. They're asking, is this Mario game, was it built using the extensions API?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
This is an extension. It's a scatter plot, and there's an extension which is running the game loop. So it's actually updating parameters every 150 milliseconds, and you can walk around with your arrow keys. And you can also visit our website, appsfortableau.com, and you can find the blog on how we build it, and you can also find the workbook and you can play it yourself.
All right. Well, thank you, Merlin. Nice to see this presentation. So last up is Keisha and Gigi to talk about the Tableau developer program. So if you all want to share your screens and get underway.
Great, sounds good. All right. You guys are seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. So I'm here today. Oh, I should put your name on the slides. My name is Keisha Rose. I'm a product manager on the developer platform team, and I focus on developer evangelism. You might have heard my voice before on other developer program events, but I'm excited to introduce to you the newest member of our team, Gigi Zanoli, all the way from London. You want to tell about yourself a little bit?
Hi everyone, I'm Geraldine. Everyone is calling me Gigi, so feel free to call me Gigi as well. I moved here in Seattle 1 month ago and from London. I'm really excited to join this team and to work with you guys.
Awesome, awesome. So let's talk about the Tableau developer program. We've started this specifically for guys like you, folks like you who are working with Tableau. They want to integrate Tableau with other applications or build on top of Tableau. And so we want to make sure that you guys are aware of the developer program and some of the benefits you get for signing up. And we're always adding new stuff, so definitely want to join us to learn more. Whoop, there we go. So how do you join? Of course, you go to tableau.com/developer. This is your main page. This is your main hub. This is where you go to sign up, but it also is a great place to start your learning. Many of you asked about how do you get started, how do you know what APIs to use, or how do you know you're doing it the right way? This is the place to start. This page from here, you can learn about all of our different APIs, our different tools, and of course, learn more about the program itself. So as of right now, our developer program has 3 amazing offerings. First of all, you get to keep up to date. The people who are on our developer program list, they're the ones who learn about the latest features first. They're the ones that are able to see what's coming up. So if you want to stay up to date, of course, join the developer program and interact with us there. And of course, probably I think some people find this one, the next one, the most exciting, is that when you sign up for the program, you do get a free personal development sandbox in Tableau Online. And again, this is specifically for developers who are trying out our APIs. Maybe you want to try out some extensions, or maybe you want to test out some embedding or try your hand at our REST API. That's who this is for. They can come in here. You can try out all of our APIs in one place without you having to sign up for or to install stuff yourself. And then thirdly, of course, you can find your people. This is where we can all gather, folks who are like-minded, who are part of our developer community. We already have an amazing Tableau community, so it's a great way to find and network people who are specifically integrating Tableau into other things, and to also get access to us. You're building Tableau, and maybe you want to talk to us, get mentored by us, or get direct feedback on certain features. This is the way to do it. So I'm going to go through just in detail each of these benefits of signing up. So first, what I said was staying up to date. So one way to do that, of course, is through our newsletters. But I would say even more importantly are the developer program sprint demos. And as a matter of fact, there's one happening tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And what happens during a developer program sprint demo is we basically show you what we worked on in the last sprint. That's the idea of the whole sprint demos. Of course, it's not always exactly lined up to our sprint, but that is the idea. Folks from Tableau dev team, from all kinds of different teams, come and show you what's new, what's coming soon, what we're working on, or even just ideas that we haven't really fleshed out yet and want to just get feedback from you guys. So if you want to learn about the latest tools that are coming to you, this is the way to do it, and you can give us feedback to help shape the way the product is built. So tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the metadata API. That's going to be really awesome if you're interested in getting information from Tableau Server. For example, maybe you want to know if this certain column is being used, like what workbooks are using a certain field. That's the kind of thing you can do with this new API that's coming soon. And we're also going to be talking about the connector SDK. This one might be more geared towards our partners, but it's going to be super awesome for everyone, because what it means is people can develop their own custom connections that act just like native Tableau connections. So things you see in that drop-down menu for, connect to SQL or connect to Oracle, you can make your own custom one that shows up right there. So if you want to learn more about those, go ahead and join us for tomorrow morning, and you can sign up at that link right there at the bottom. I'll leave this there for a second if you want to grab it, but it's a great way to find out what's coming soon. Okay, I also mentioned the Developer Sandbox. It's specifically for developers. This is not the place for you to come and test your dashboards, unfortunately. So things you can do or you should do. Develop extensions. Of course, we're talking about extensions mostly for today, but it's not just for extensions. Also, you can test embedding. You want to try and create some cool interactions, some buttons, your own custom filtering. Definitely the place to try that out. You can also try out some automation scripts, as well as get access to the pre-release API. So this online developer sandbox is special. It gets the pre-release updates first. So if we have something that's in beta or something that's in pre-release, it will be in the online dev sandbox before it reaches out to the world for our actual release. Things to not do in our developer sandbox: don't use it for production. This can be wiped at any time. You should be using it for testing and development. Again, as I said, not really for testing end user features. And of course, obviously, don't store any sensitive data here. It's obviously there. But it is free to sign up, and it is a 3-month renewal. So as long as you're using it, you can keep having it test. Now, I also mentioned talking about reaching out to the community and finding folks like you and networking and meeting us. Well, we're excited to launch our new Data Dev Hackathon series. We've always done Hackathon at TC just once for the entire year, but now we're taking it on tour. So this is a chance for you to come join us. You can hack on our platforms. You can learn about our APIs. Of course, you can network and you get to meet the devs that actually build the product. But it's also a great time to just step away from your desk and actually have some focused time to learn and try some of the APIs. A lot of folks we hear say, they always wanted to try building a portal for their team, or they always wanted to try using, some kind of API, but they never have time in their day-to-day lives. So this is a great chance for you to just kind of set aside a day, full day. We start at 7:30 early in the morning, full day for you to really focus and get some concentrated learning time on our APIs. And many times folks end up building things that they actually take back to their desk, they take back to their team, and can actually use in their work environment. And of course, we're going to keep you fueled up. We're going to have awesome local snacks if you're able to join us. And we do have a couple awesome prizes. We've got some raffles. Of course, we want you to come and learn, but if you have an amazing hack, well, you might just win tickets to TC. That's right, I said it. The grand prize is that you can get tickets for you and your team, up to 4 people, to go to TC. Now, again, we really want you to come to learn, but if you have a really awesome hack, we'd like to reward you for that too. And we do have some fun raffles throughout the day as well, so you can always get some cool swag as well. Now, one thing we are doing that's a new thing that hasn't really been released yet is these mini projects. Also, I should mention that our next hackathon is coming up in Chicago, but first I'm going to talk about these mini projects. We do want you guys to come and learn. Even if you haven't used APIs before, if you've never coded before, we are welcoming anyone, all skill levels. If you already are a Jedi, if you're awesome, that's great. And if you're not and you want to learn, we have these awesome, cool little mini projects. So this is just an example of the ones we have currently, and we're going to be building them out as we go. But let's say you want to learn how to, update a date filter to a specific range, but have that happen automatically. Well, that's something that you can do with the Extensions API, and we have these mini projects that walk you step by step by step from beginning to end. So if you've never built anything before, you can leave saying, I built this thing, and then maybe from there you can customize it and add your own flair to it. So again, all skill levels are welcome. And our next one, like I said, is in Chicago. So those of you in Chicago or in driving distance to Chicago, I think it was like what, Milwaukee's over there. My geography's not great. That is it for sure. That's over there. Our next one is April 11th and 12th. We usually do a nice fun happy hour of the Thursday evening. And then we have a full day for you guys to hack and have fun. If you want to know where else we're going this year, after Chicago, we're headed to Austin. Then we're going East Coast, going to New York. Then we're going to go down to the Bay Area and Palo Alto. We also have one in London for your European folks. And of course, like we always do, we have our Las Vegas Tableau conference run. And if you're not able to go to any of these locations, we also will be having a virtual hackathon in August as well. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can get a chance to hack with us all together. So if you want to learn more about our hackathon, you can go to tableau.com/data-dev-hack. It's super excited to get this on the road and meet you guys and see what you guys can build. So at this point, I think that's about wrapping it up. I'm sure there are plenty of questions in the Q&A. Again, please put the questions in the Q&A. It's easier for us to monitor and answer them there. And I think at this point, though, I'll open it up for questions for anyone that presented today as well.
So thanks, Keisha. So one question that jumped out to me in the Q&A was how you participate in a hackathon if you're nowhere, in fact, I said nowhere near a large city. I think you talked about a virtual hackathon. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about what that would be like and how to participate.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, please join us for our virtual hackathon. The dates I think might change, but it's definitely going to be in August. We're trying to work on the best format right now, but anyone will be able to join. It'll be over multiple days. We're thinking maybe 10 days is a good stretch of time. So that way, if you want to, talk to us, network with folks, you can have your own virtual team. We might have like a Slack channel so you can actually get chats directly to the dev team. So if you're not in any of those major cities, that's cool. Definitely join us for the virtual hackathon.
All right, thank you. So let's see if there's another question here. So I know that there's different resources available on the GitHub page and on the Tableau website. Any other resources that come to mind, whether it's videos that people could follow along? There are a lot of questions on, I've never coded before, and I'm very, very new to this, but I want to try something.
Yeah.
So any resources that you could think of, whether they're Tableau resources or not, to really get a newbie started?
Definitely. I think, actually, let me see if I can find the page here. Give me one moment. So those mini projects that I mentioned, those are not just for hackathons. I mean, that was what we were gearing them towards, but they are publicly available. Let me just find, actually, let me pause. I think I paused my screen. There we go. Okay. You guys are seeing GitHub, right? Great. Okay.
Yes.
So if you go to the Tableau GitHub page, just Google search Tableau GitHub, and you can find the Data Dev Hackathon repository. You go here, click on the wiki in that top bar, and that's where you can find those 3 mini projects I mentioned. This, I think, is a really easy way to just get started from scratch. This is assuming that you have nothing installed, right? You're just brand new, you're starting off. So I had mentioned that updated date filter to a specific range project. And just to give you an idea of how detailed this is, first of all, it starts you off with like how difficult it's going to be. It tells you what kind of things you're going to need, and then it just goes through step by step by step. In this case, I like to use Glitch, which is a really cool hosting service and text editor. So you don't even have to download any software. You can just click remix it right here, and it'll start you up your own personal environment. And if you go back, so there you go, there's the README. You can start doing your own thing. If I go back here, whoops, there we go. You can see it's specific down to the level, right? You can even copy and paste the code if you want to, but it's every step of the way. And if you follow along, you will end with building your own extension. So we plan on building these out more and more, but I think this is an awesome place to start if you really have no clue and you just want to hop in and learn.
All right, thank you. So this next question is something I'm actually interested in for my extension as well. So it has to do with extensions in the marketplace or the gallery. Is there a mechanism for users, people who are downloading the T-Rex file and using it to give feedback from within that environment on the extension? In this particular example, they talk about data-driven parameters. It sounds like they have some ideas on how to improve that. What's the right channel to give feedback on an extension, whether it's built by Tableau or by a third party?
Awesome, great question. So we do plan on fleshing out the gallery a bit more. We currently just don't have the staff to do it. So that's why you see it says beta in the top left corner. It's not that the extensions are beta, that the gallery itself is beta. One of the things we do want to add later on is a way to give reviews or give feedback back to the developers to the site. But for now, specifically for that particular extension, I would say go to the Tableau GitHub page and file an issue or file some kind of request in there, and then we'll see it that way. For the ones that are not Tableau, I would say use that little link for the developer website on each of the extension pages, and there you can reach out to them. But hopefully in the future, in the near future, we're interviewing for this person right now. So in the near future, hopefully we'll have a nice way for you to review it right there in the gallery coming soon.
All right, great, thank you. So I think that's all the time we have for questions today. I do want to thank all of the speakers, Andre and Merlin and Keisha and Gigi, welcome. I'm Anthony Chimbaris. Before we close, I just want to say that I've been using, I think I'm going to call out my age here. I've been using Tableau for about 13 years. And this was before dashboards, before server. You could connect to Excel and text files. It's just amazing, some of the stuff I'm seeing now, specifically with the extensions. I mean, I would have never dreamed of Mario in Tableau. So, so it's pretty amazing. So thanks everyone for joining, and we hope to see you all again in about a quarter. Talk to you soon. Thanks, bye-bye.